Did you take a shirt and put it in front of your other shirt?
That's exactly what I did, yes.
And you're like, oh yes, this surely worked yesterday as well.
Because literally, I don't think this fits anymore. I think I'm too fat for it. So I don't know where any other. I'm got a wedding to go to in a couple of months. I'm going to buy a new shirt.
I dare say it's time to get on that.
Whereas I have the harrowing realization that this is shirt that I wore to go to school when I was 16. It still fits me.
God, you're young.
Yep.
Shut up.
It's okay. One day he'll grow chest hair too.
Ugh. Must be a fine.
I've got 2 or 3. Ladies, all 1% of the ladies that watch my channel.
Well, mine's a sausage fest as well, but I noticed I've got quite a few grey chest hairs now, which is yeah.
He's got enough chest hairs to complain about the colour of them.
Yeah.
Rich.
How did you take that? Was it like, how do you feel about us?
You know,
I noticed yesterday.
You know that feeling when something
Anderson, let me give you a peek of the
is gone
epicness.
wrong.
That's right. I'm not wearing a second shirt. It just
Well, there's a magic carpet down there.
The white part is from graying, by the way. I am becoming a silverback at this point. Turns out that is a thing that actually just happens to some people.
That's like +3 armor or something like that. What you had. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today, it is time to do a little thing that I wanted to do for a while. It's basically that we, the old Grumblers, and special guest today.
Oh, do I supposed okay,
Senor Cody.
Hi. Special guest today. There's a weighty pause you left right there.
Yeah, honestly, I just I'm making this up as I go, so I just need like a second to like know what I want to do, and sometimes it's good so people can digest what I said anyway.
You can just say you forgot his name. It's fine.
You do have a horrifying
Yeah, it's like-
accent that's just impossible to decide.
Cody. I was like, Cody Bonsai, because he always called Bonsai and everything else. But yes, this is something I want to do for a bit, and it's essentially that we all try to pitch our ideas for a rework to each other, faction rework that we're passionate about or just want to see, and we're gonna try to be like salesman Jill from The Simpsons, and everyone's even wearing a shirt, which I bullied literally every single one of them as they came in today. I was just here first. I was like, "Oh, you have to wear this," and just managed to do that. It's fantastic. So let's get this show started, and you guys can tell us what you guys think about
You
it.
basically gave us homework, didn't you? I didn't realise we were going to get homework for this.
And
No,
I came
I-
into this late, so I was trying to like stay up late to come up with something to talk about.
God.
I mean, I stream so much, so I ramble about these all the time. I could literally talk about a rework for any single faction at like drop of a hat. It's because what I do so many times a week anyway.
Got to fill that dead air, man.
Right. Speaking of which, who wants to go first?
Let's do Damneders. It is your channel, and I am
That's
giving
true.
you the honors to start this.
I should probably speak some point. All right. So, did you mention we chose 2 factions each? I think I'll start with 1 because I feel like 2 I might go on a bit. But my first one, obviously, it's got to be the Vampire Counts. My favorite faction since Warhammer 1. Haven't had a DLC since Warhammer 1, which was of course the guy and the other guy. It was Helman Gorst and the dude Volkmar, wasn't it?
Yeah.
God, they have not had a DLC since then.
Nope.
Jeez. Wasn't he the first DLC?
One of them.
He was.
Yeah,
One of the first
the Beastman was first.
Yeah, the throne guy. The Scar Snake guy was the first one, but
Snake was
yeah,
first,
it's like
yeah.
number 2.
No, wasn't it Beastman that was
You're
first?
Well, I mean the Lord
That was the
packs.
first, like...
Let's just have a look.
That's wild, though. You're right. I hadn't realized that, because it's all been FLC or, like, minor updates but since then. They haven't had a full official DLC.
Yep,
Since
it's depressing.
Gosh.
They
The
haven't even had an
well-known
update
legendary
really.
Lord Gorst.
He was absolute dog ass until this game. Now it's just like excellent, so that regen is crazy. But anyway, the Vampire Counts. As you know, they've got the Bloodlines, which I don't know. They're fine. They just don't do enough. Is my problem with the Vampire Counts. They've got all these cool things, but it's just like the level of coolness that they could be, and then the level of coolness that they are is just it's out of whack. So my first change on my whiteboard here, which I definitely have behind me, is Raising Dead. And if anyone's been to my channel before, you know what I'm going to say. I want you to be able to raise undead units that you destroy. And you could do this in a number of ways. It can be like the Raised Dead right now, apart from like if you beat the Lizard Men and it's got a load of dinosaurs in it, you can get like some undead dinosaurs. Or it can be like the Slanesh seduction mechanic, where after a battle, any unit that's dead, you have a set budget and you can be like, I want to raise this one, and then they just join your army. I'm well aware that this is a ridiculous amount of work because you need to make undead variants of basically every unit in the game, but I don't care because I can say whatever I want in this dream rework. I don't know, I just feel like that'd be so cool to have a fully undead army that's made of this mishmash of different things, because it just feels like you're not really playing as like people that raise the dead, you're playing as people that raise their dead units and no one else's, which I don't know, it's just not very fun. Feel free to chime in at any point with feedback.
Okay, so
I was going to let you finish, but I have tons of things to say. I was just trying to be polite.
But like lore-wise, raising other dudes is like pretty hard for a necromancer. Most necromancers will only ever be able to do zombies, because a skeleton, like in Warhammer, or like a body and stuff like that, would have like some form of soul memory to what they want to be raised as. So that's why most things will look like a person, while people like Nagash, I say people, like Nagash would be able to, just make whatever the hell he wants to. He'll just make like a scorpion made out of bones that is 20 foot tall and just scary as all hell. Like most, like there's only just a couple, like half a dozen of necromancers that ever even been able to like resurrect dwarves. And resurrecting a dragon and stuff like that is like immense. Just a couple of them have only ever been able to do that as well.
That's a really good point. There's a mod that does what you're talking about. Have you played it?
No.
Yeah, so it's a mod that it has lizardmen, it has dwarves. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name. I'll have to look it up. I played with it recently. But basically, depending on the region you're in, like you have a chance of them appearing in your pool. Which I hate the pool. Gosh, I hate that pool system. Like, it's one of those things, like, I really wish they had not adopted the Warriors of Chaos system for their Raise Undead. I just despise it. This is one of the factions I wanted to do, and then I got here about 5 minutes before the podcast. Like, yeah, no, that was taken. Well, shit. Okay, sorry.
I actually like the Raise Dead, personally.
You like the news Raised Dead. I don't like the percentage. I like what Damodar says. Like, I want the power fantasy of being a necromancer, right? Like, there's a spell on the tabletop that I really dig, which is once you kill something, then you have the chance to like resurrect them as a zombie almost immediately. And I think, there's not that, because they're a game one race, they don't have those unique mechanics. They all kind of feel game one samey. Like, I would love to see almost an active ability on the side that just has a number ticking up next to it, because that's how many people you've killed at the time. And immediately being able to turn that into a unit you can summon would be so cool. The longer you wait, maybe the better the units unlock as you go, because you like channel the souls into something.
Total War definitely has that, though, because there's definitely been a counter for when you run down units in past Total Wars. I'm thinking like the first Medieval. As you ran down units, you would have a little counter, and then you could execute them.
Yeah. That was Medieval 2, because it would let you decide at the end what you want to do. And even now, they track that number because they do it for the Valkyria's weapon and stuff like that. So the kills are being tracked somewhere. It's just not being interacted with. And I think that would be a really cool way of, making it feel, like you said, get that power fantasy in there. But you're talking about the Blood Kiss system. I don't dig it, man. Like, it's like, it just feels such a weird way of doing it. I almost want to say, like, what if there are lost tombs spread across the world and you have to go to that certain vampire's tomb? Or maybe it's like, if you kill a general at the end of a battle, you can, level them up through thrall to like whatever. I don't know. But like you said, it needs to feel more epic. It needs to dig into that fantasy.
I mean, one big thing that Manfred does in the end times, was... is that
Manfred was right in the end times. I will
but he just murder. He goes out and murders so many von Karstein vampires, because Vlad is just very generous with the blood kiss, like very, very, very generous. Like he's basically sitting there like, that was a good apple pie you did, Margaret. Come here and I will give you a proper thank you. They're like, oh, what are you gonna do? And then he's like, now you will forever be the baker. Just keeps on, he just makes so many vampires. So Manfred just goes out and hunts like hundreds of these vampires that Vlad just makes out of like, I don't even know why he makes them. It's just he just likes people, I guess.
He just
wasn't even that good an apple pie. It was mediocre at best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fred's completely fair with like the law stuff, but I always come at it from the point of view of I don't really know the law, and also I don't I don't really care because gameplay fun shouldn't get in the way of it, but I know where Games Workshop is involved, they're not going to break their own law at least too much. So yeah, that's always going to be a constraint. I think the Blood Kisses system could be better because I like the idea of the legendary bloodlines and the unique lords that are kind of immortal is okay. I just think making the tiers more interesting, maybe adding some like unique units behind each of the lords would be cool, because you have the Sylvanian crossbowmen and spearmen, but what if one of them can get like I don't know, like a zombie mammoth or something ridiculous? I just want more units and undead things because they're cool.
That mod I mentioned, it's called necromancy, by the way, and there are undead skeleton mammoths. So if you pull it up, it's basically like there's already skeletons inside the game for nearly all these things, from environmental art, from where they're killed or whatever, and someone just went in and rigged them to all the existing animations. So a lot of it's already in the game, clearly, because that's what a lot of these modders use.
It's genuinely amazing what modders can do, isn't it? I'm always surprised by the amount of stuff they do, and CA just goes, "Oh, that's too hard. We can't do that."
Dude, did you see the Araby mod?
It's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, it's like literally like if they just had like a little bit higher resolution on the textures, custom animations, it would be a DLC.
Easily.
Well,
it actually would be like it would be better than some.
So there's been one thing that all mods have been missing until a month ago, and the Blood Knights mod added it. Custom voice lines now can exist in Warhammer. One dude finally cracked it.
I noticed that. Araby's got that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he helped them with it. Yeah. I was like, there's nothing separating this from a DLC now. Like, you have all the same access to the stuff, and people have worked for years. I mean, this has been out for 8 years, and people have been developing these tools third party for years to be able to do this, though.
I mean, there's £20 separating them. Am I right?
I mean, the only thing I will say about the Araby DLC is the fact that some of the djinns look a little bit janky. But considering that this is a free mod, I don't think that's anything to complain about.
Dude, it's like if somebody like held up like Araby and Norska and they were like, which one of this is a mod? I would be like, Norska is right.
Norska, yeah, clearly, yeah.
Like,
oh god, my favorite thing is that they added a frostworm and then they've changed the name of a frostworm in Norska to like a chaos frost dragon. That is like the most gaslighting thing I've ever seen in the game. How dare you? It was like a frostworm.
It just shows how much they dislike Norska. Like they liked it in game 1, they had a problem putting it in game 2, and then they just like hate it now, like really do. So they're like, yeah, you don't even need that name, buddy. Just let me have it and let's put it on this. And you know what this unit will be? One of the worst ones in the entirety of the game.
I can picture them like adding the unit, and you know, like they've all got the unit thing, so it's like a DLC 09 unit, and they're going, Frostworm, why can't we name it Frostworm? What's using this name? They're like, oh, Norska? What's that?
So, Damneders, I have a question about your rework, though, because this is something somebody else brought up to me earlier, and I want to pass on to you to see how you would solve it. He's technically an Elector Count, but technically not, and is constantly having to interact with that system, but also not really a part of that system at the same time.
Ooh.
Vlad, in this case.
Right, yeah. That is like immediately snap decision. You could just make it like Manfred can go after the books. You could just make it so that Vlad can take part in it. Obviously, he can't confederate the others, but maybe have it so that, you know, the system where you can place the lords, the Elector Count, sorry, and they get unique effects and items and units and stuff. You could just do a version of that for Vlad. And like, if he just takes over the area and you can just be like, oh, this bloodline, bring in the bloodlines. This von Karstein lord from my bloodline is now the Elector Count of Aldorf, and he gets this and that.
Man, the goddamn books for Manfred needs so much of a rework. I hate this. It's just worse than like what Volkmar gets. It's just worse. So many levels. It's just so shit that I don't even use it. Like when people are like, "Oh, aren't you going to get the books?" And I was like, "For what? Why am I supposed to do this?" It's just the von Karstein Palace all over again. God, I hate that building. I hate it so much.
It's so good for
heroes. Checked that out? Have you ever checked like the von Karstein Palace? Anyways,
that's the unique landmark, right?
I thought it was the mausoleum of the Mad Count, or is that something else?
No.
It's been a minute.
I think that's the one, like the next city over. Like, because there was like so many people starting in the same area, they were trying to give you unique stuff to make it feel.
I do have one more thing for this rework that can come to once Fred's done his googling. It's very minor, but it just needs doing.
Do you on your Google ETA? I mean, we can just pretend he looks frozen, like he's literally standing there like a statue.
Yeah, I do this.
Shall I let you Google in the background? Right.
Who's everyone's favourite vampire?
Isabella. Will not elaborate.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so it's Von Karstein Court Hall, okay? Von Karstein Court Hall. It costs 16,000 to fucking build, okay?
That's reasonable.
And you give public order +2,
Locally.
law recruitment rank +2, hero recruitment +2, and vampiric corruption +1.
Yeah!
Nice.
But it's like all region, but it's 16,000 tier 5. Like, it's mental. It's the worst thing you could build in the world. 16,000? Like, are they insane?
Power creep.
There are, because they've changed that, haven't they? It didn't used to be that, I'm sure.
It's basically always been this. It's always been shits. Absolutely garbage.
Some of the numbers in this game are so weird.
Yeah.
It's almost like they just don't play the game in themselves, so they just slap random numbers on it and hope for the best.
So the streamer Arcard did an interview on stream with one of the developers, and they said, shout out to Arcard, by the way, cool dude. And they said that they don't have a list for like items and things like that. It's like like at least that what they said in that interview, that they just don't have like a comprehensive list for things they can like compare easily, which is like also a little bit insane.
So they just wing it.
But that's not technically true, because I mean, all the modders use RPFM, and there's literally a list of all the buildings, including anything tagged unique.
Yeah, but like items, things like so if you check, so if you check like the uncommon items and common items, stuff like that, you'll see like they're just not created the same. Like an uncommon item is sometimes the worst one is better than some of the rare blue ones and even legendary ones.
Yeah, Forbidden Rod is one of the best items in the game, and it's only a green.
Yeah.
Well, it is a forbidden rod.
Right.
Termadog's got zoomies.
Forbidden rod of innuendos.
I want to hear your last thing, because I remembered something I wanted to add to this.
Right,
so please.
We covered the Bloodlines, the Raised Dead, corruption. It's just, they're like one of the last corruptions that just does nothing. It's public order, it's attrition, that's it. Like, just make it do something. Maybe make it so that it's related to, like, say you did the Raised Dead rework. Like I said, it increases the budget of raising dead units. It increases the likelihood that a unit that dies you can then resurrect. It just does something. Do anyway? Because right now
it does do that though.
It does.
So when you lose units in battle, they have a higher chance to come back.
Oh wait, yeah,
like the dead rise again mechanic. So that one gets higher. And if you don't have the corruption, you'll also take attrition as well.
That's why it's an absolute nightmare to deal with the crisis in their own territory, because you end up fighting the same 3 stacks 3 times in a row.
Yeah. I had to fight like 2 armies 7 times in one turn when they were attacking my fortress over and over and over.
I apologize.
I see the return of night battles. Like, that was something that previous Total War games had, was night battles, and I think it's really thematic to vampire counts. And I think that if you have high attrition, you have a chance of a night battle, which lowers the leadership of your enemy people, lowers the morale of your enemy people, and just changes the skylighting on the map. I mean, I think that's a simple change, but would be very cool.
Just give them a unique movement stance. It's kind of like the roaming ambush, but it's just like a much lower probability, because that'd be too cracked if not.
So I was playing 3 Kingdoms today, and the night battles in that one are so nice. They're so pretty, and they're so clear and everything. And I always get like, why can't just Warhammer have this one? Have you guys read the Nagash books?
Yes.
Because he can't march in the daylight that well, right? Like everyone is like the sun isn't nice to undead unless you go to like end times again. Ooh, end times. And so he has like scarab swarms that cover the entire sky. So wherever Nagash walks, there's just knights. And it's just the coolest thing ever. And I'm just always sad that you don't even have night battles in it in Total War.
I mean, I guess all the undead battles are kind of night, but it's mostly just it's like when you play the Skaven and every time you fight in your own territory, everything's green.
Yeah.
And when you're a Nakari, everything's pink. And when you're Kugath, everything's green.
Just put a filter on, and that's
it, basically.
Yeah.
The one other thing I want to do for a Vampire Counts rework is I want to do some different stuff for the lineages, specifically the Von Karsteins. Because I remember reading this piece of lore fluff, and I like halfway modded it in and then got bored and stopped. But Vlad, who doesn't get a mount in game, can change into a wolf, or a swarm of bats. And that extra mobility
That'd be
in
so
Warhammer
sick.
3 would be so cool, right? Like, cool, make it so there's a detraction. Maybe he's really weak in wolf form. Maybe he's really weak as a swarm of bats, but giving them that transformability like the lore beasts, the amber wizards get, same sort of idea. I mean, it's such an interesting thing. It, again, separates them out, that makes them feel powerful even though they're still foot lords.
Yeah, you could just have it like the Meowing and Cathay thing system, where it's just an activatable ability. They transform. They can switch between two. I don't know if they'll be able to do 3. I feel like that might be complicated to do, but I don't know.
I don't think.
As long as it's
I don't think he can transform other things to mist and bats and wolves and stuff like that. Though only himself.
That's fine.
Just himself.
But with that being said, though, Kemmler's goddamn cloak of mist is what it called, right? His unique item on the tabletop and in the lore makes him fly, and he gets a bony horse otherwise. And I understand, like in Warhammer 1, you didn't have the tech to make him be able to fly, but now Malagor has it as well. And like, you can just give Kemmler that. He can be Meth Head Gandalf and fly.
How would you make him fly?
Well, it's aerial. It's the take off and land. It's just a button.
No, I
that's
mean,
on
like,
there.
what's he going to look? Is he just going to T-pose and float into the sky?
He does
I really hope he's on
I mean, preferably. I mean, he could just stand and just like floats, like, Omni-Man or something. Or preferably, he just T-poses, goes into the sky, and just like shows dominance and T-pose and stares down at them.
Just like does a landing attack, superhero landing attack, so he just like slams into the middle of a unit and they just go flying everywhere.
I want that for the new Cathay guy, like we said last episode. Damn it. I just want the stuff to be cool and fun, a little bit overpowered in campaign, because that's just neat. Yeah, I think...
I don't know why they bother like trying to balance it for single player. I mean, as long as it's not stupid for the player to fight against, who cares?
I mean, the Changeling is just... like, you can't lose. If the Changeling is in game and you literally cannot lose, why are you worrying about it for everyone else?
I've only lost one Total War game anyway, so does it really matter?
To be honest, I've also only lost one Total War game and I suck. And it was as the Beastmen pre-rework. Yeah. I just like went to my first battle and then like the Empire just all of a sudden was like, okay, we just killed you now. And I was like, oh, cool, turn 3, nice.
I remember that as well. Like,
I think you like raided me off something, I can't remember.
It was so funny. I once had Carl France stalk my my Beastman in game 1. Like for 3 or 4 turns, all of that. He would just like show up all the time, and I would just be here in cabin status of like, you shouldn't go in here. And Carl is going like, constantly.
Pre-patch Beastman was so scary to play as.
It was one of the main issues, because if you get spotted in Empire territory, they just converge from every direction.
Oh yeah,
they want you. I do not like you.
A couple of things though about the vampire stuff before we move on. I don't know if we have. Do you have more for your rework, for your pitch?
Let me check my Spark notes. I don't.
Plus, I'm just gonna chime in really quickly. They're the only faction except for Wood Elves that have no way of breaking down walls while they're actually in a siege battle.
They also have really awful anti-large. They've got like 3 units.
Yeah.
I mean, Spearman works for everything though. Like you can just have like
skeleton spearmen. You've got skeleton spearmen, then you've got terrorgeists and blood knights, isn't it? Which means you've got a tier 1 unit and then the tier 5 units and nothing in between.
Man, I just got a flashback to when I got brain damage from talking to somebody on Reddit, because I was like, vampire should have a zombie dragon to be able to recruit. Why? Because it's sick. It's really cool. And like SFO had it and it worked really well. It was just fun. And this one dude was like, nah, this was like in game 2 that we were discussing this. And they're like, nah, you can't have that. They already have one. They don't need one more. And I was like, well, the high elves have 3 of them. So why wouldn't it, like, that's just weird. And this dude was just kept on insisting on like, nah, they're completely different. The high elf dragons use them for completely different things. And I was just like, well, one, you don't. The Star Dragon is the best one. That's the one you guess. Sure. Obviously, the breath attacks are a little bit different. But you're not going to be like, oh, yes, I have 5 Star Dragons, and now I'm going to get a Moon Dragon as well, because it has slightly higher armor piercing, because I'm not a buffoon. And for the second thing, the Terror Goose is goddamn like the worst dragon in the game. and it's also anti-large. You can just have one that is anti-infantry or something. And this person was just like, no, and like that would be awful. I don't even know. Like now, like years after, I'm like gaslighting myself into like, he must have been trolling me. He must have. Like people can't be like that.
The moment you decide to engage with someone on Reddit and get into an argument, you lost. There's no winning.
I guess so.
I just love the idea that sometimes late at night, and Fred will wake up and go, he must have been trolling me, right?
Yeah, surely.
His wife will say, just go to sleep again. Just shut up.
His wife just like, oh, is asleep. Fred's just in the window like this, looking out.
Not
really
this
sad.
again.
On the off chance someone of importance watches this and just taking notes, because the assumption is that the vampire counts get a rework when Nagash releases, and that's what Lord 100 is what everybody's saying pretty much.
That's what the rumor mill hopes for.
Been sub 9 now. So Kimmler flying. I've been really thinking about this the entire time I've been sitting here. Skeleton horse constantly running in the air, like you're like death riding on the back of a horse. So it's like fiery footsteps under you, and it's like
isn't that what Arkan does in his chariot, but on the ground?
But he doesn't need that because he has the cloak that just makes him fly.
Well, the cloak can make the horse fly too. It's like bones. It's not.
No, it's
he grabs it by the scruff of his neck and just whee!
I kind of guess it would be a bit more like I guess Doctor Strange-esque.
Yeah, exactly.
So we could go flying
hysterical.
around
because also, because I really hope that they're gonna add in Mortarks when Nagash comes in, like making the generals of Nagash as well, because they have like this, what are they called? The Dread Abyssals mounts.
Yeah, and
they are so goddamn cool as mounts. Like Vlad gets one. Luther Harkin gets one. Nameless one. Like Neferata, etc. And it's just
really
like
Neferata. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I really hope that Neferata gets like some mixture between like schemes and high elf influence, because if she doesn't get that, I'm gonna be just I'm just gonna be sad. Honestly, like that's what I'm gonna do. It's not gonna go further than this.
But yeah, I think that's me for my vampire counts. I don't want them. I stand corrected on the corruption, but I still want it to do more because.
No, I agree. It should do more, because technically what it does is like take away all the life around you and suck the life out of them. Makes like undead stuff go around in the woods and stuff like that, so that they get attacked when they move around and shit like that.
Even if it was as simple as like when Skaven corruption's high, you get the menace below. Just give like the vampire counts the exact same thing, apart from it's like units of zombies at between like 25 and 50%, and then above that it's skeleton, and above that it's like a Vargulf or something, or a new cool unit. But yeah, who's next?
Monsters. He has said next to nothing.
In that case,
he's looming.
I'm coming out of left field. Ogres.
Whew.
Because
so true.
Yes.
Who could have seen ogres being in need of rework?
It's an easy hit, but I think that because like you could look at vampire counts and you could say, well, they need some love, and they do, but effectively they're fine, right? None of their mechanics actively hinder them as a faction, whereas the ogres, oof. Instantly, the headline, camps. Are camps a good idea? No, they're awful. In fact,
it's just horde with extra steps, and worse.
It's a horde that can't move and can't hide. Imagine playing the Beastmen, but you can't move. How long would you live? Not very long. The camps they are such a weak point, because unless you actively sit there and defend them, they will get wiped out. They are impossible to defend. The camps are impossible for ogres to move around in, which is insane. They've effectively made a defensive structure which is at best a hindrance to your own faction. And then you can't move them. They are the most important part of your economy. They are a nightmare to defend. Absolutely useless. And then the rest of the mechanics are, well, I've literally got the list here. Contracts, terrible, because, I mean, the amount of money they offer you is a pittance.
Yeah,
just play normal battles, you get more shit.
Right? And often they ask you to go and declare war on a faction that is more than, say, 20 turns away for 1,000. I actually got one good contract. Someone offered me like 30 grand to go and declare, but that was because it was from the starting Chaos Dwarf faction, the one that holds the capital, and they're loaded. So they offered me a load of money, which is actually worth it. But if you look at it, like, you think 30 grand, that's a lot of money. But realistically, if you've got your army, which is costing you 6 grand, they want you to travel 10 turns away, that's going to cost you 5 grand every turn before you can actively get that 30 grand. Realistically, not really worth it. So contracts, just completely useless. They're not a bad idea. It's just that, as with many things in Warhammer 3, they just didn't want to make the numbers big for some reason. Meat is completely useless. May as well not bother. As soon as you get your first camp, it's a meaningless thing. You obviously get your little buff you can give people, but it's mostly ignorable. You get the campaign movement range or the melee attack. One of the two. Fine. Big names, again, you've got the same issue, which is they don't like big numbers, so you end up with these pointless... It's like the Warriors of Chaos. What's their mechanic called, where you kind of have to do little missions to get the...
Yeah, where you unlock the blessing of the gods or whatever.
Yeah, that. It's basically that, except you can only have one of them. So it's worse. It's just worse.
And the bonuses aren't as good.
So,
that is the part that astonishes me. Because, like, big names, like Greasus's canonically correct name is 45 minutes long. Just make it so that you can have as many names as you pick up. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And it'd be, I mean, it won't be good, but it'd be okay.
I mean, like the contracts, they should really have something like you go to war with somebody, but then after you finish the contract, you're no longer at war.
That's a great idea.
I think there's something...
That's really, that makes it an advantage. That's interesting.
You like fight in the name of that faction. So if you take a settlement, it goes to them. But they pay you a full-load of cash and items and stuff.
Personally,
because if you check like...
I would like to see contracts be something that's offered for you to be at war with a faction and for a set amount of time for every... If you raid that faction, basically any negative attack you have against that faction, any attack you do against that faction will give you like a bonus amount of money. And this is kind of like... Because there's something similar in... Is it Troy?
3 Kingdoms, yeah.
Is it
Troy?
Three?
No,
Yes,
no, 3 Kingdoms.
Yeah.
I was actually playing Jon Bayahu today, and he has this.
Yeah. So basically that. Why not just do that? Which would be 1,000 times better than the current contracts.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, the contracts really need some work because, canonically, there's only 2 factions in Warhammer Fantasy that are neutral. Everyone else is like Order or Destruction. That's like Tomb Kings and Ogres are neutral. But you don't feel neutral when you're playing Ogres. Like you are a Destruction faction, basically.
They don't feel like mercenaries, which is what they are. Yeah. They just feel like assholes. Just fucking around, being annoying.
The problem is with Warhammer in particular, I think, is that you inevitably end up being dragged by the nose by the AI just declaring war on you. And the only way to stop being at war is to effectively exterminate that faction. So the idea of being a mercenary is good, except the problem is you'd effectively just be expanding your borders forever. And at some point you would kind of wouldn't be a mercenary anymore, you'd be a massive empire. So
but with small settlements.
Yeah, well, yes. So personally,
I think even going with the horde system, like if it went from being in the camps to the hordes, if you're following the contract across the world and as a wandering, mercenary, it makes more sense again. But it's the fact that you have to go there and then come back to use it in any way.
Yeah, because your economy is based on the idea that you have these camps, but also you have the smaller settlements, because the camps increase the money you get from the smaller settlements, so you need both. Which is insane in my... I think the ogres probably need the same mechanics as beastmen, where they're not actively getting income, but maybe loot or something, and then recruiting more units off that, maybe using meat in there as another... But basically, I think the idea of them being a sedentary, stationary faction doesn't really work. And I know they control those mountains, but it just doesn't... It doesn't really work for the ogres. I remember playing them in the Realm of Chaos campaign and absolutely hating it. I think they're the only faction I ever came out of going, I absolutely detested that campaign and I never want to do it again.
I think the roster is great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like when the drum starts beating and then like the lead belchers shoot in unison for that. That's just awesome how they time that.
Yeah,
it's all campaign mechanics that are the issue.
Yeah, when you're in the
I played
right.
I played the Olger Hall mod. Great name, by the way. But they have like moving camps and other things that you've brought up now. And they still feel pretty goddamn bad, actually. Like it's better, but they just need more work. But it's definitely like on the right track. I 100% agree with you.
Which one of you is doing Norska? Because I'm sure one of you is doing Norska.
I did the Norska achievement a couple of weeks ago.
No, I meant sorry for your rework.
Oh yeah, I am.
Yeah, because I think this is a symptom again of being a pre-order faction. Like they're both pre-order factions. They've never gotten that additional DLC or love, and they've just never quite felt right. I mean, it's the same problem Warriors of Chaos had back in game 1 that didn't get fixed until they were brought in with like major DLC later. It's just like there's something about those pre-order factions, man. They just like they feel like cut content that just was not supposed to be there.
I think it feels particularly bad with the ogres. I think this is probably something that's kind of my working theory with Warhammer 3 is that it was rushed out, and they'd kind of got the idea of these are the mechanics that make these factions feel like the factions, because the thematics are really nice, but they never actually went in and went, but are these fun?
Yeah,
they work mechanically.
I have a theory.
Is this fun?
I have a theory on the mechanics specifically, because I was going to talk about Cathay very briefly, just because, or Cathay and Kislev. I think it's also true for ogres now that you listen to you describe it, which is I think initially it was going to be like Troy, and everybody had their own individual mechanic. Like you have the base faction, and then the mechanics were separate between factions because they're so specific to the characters. Like as Miao Ying, you use the wall mechanic. As Jiao Ming, you use the trade mechanic, right? And you don't really interact with the opposite mechanics there. I mean, the same thing for Kislev, the ice court mechanic where you're like, training your princesses and stuff versus the orthodoxy mechanic. Like those feel like two different characters with two different mechanics.
And Boris
with the meat and the meat versus the big names and contracts, right? Two different people with two different mechanics, and they sort of smushed them together in all the cases, and they never quite married in a way that made sense. Like I think someone came along and was like, "Oh, why are these separate?"
Kiss. But yeah, I think it comes down to polish effectively, and I'm kind of worried that the ogres will never get it.
No.
I think they will end up like Norska, unloved. Talking of Norska.
Segue.
Oh. The best segue ever.
Thank you.
I'm, yes. Norska. Awful place. A place that literally has coastline that you cannot defend. There's no, like, you can't have a front line at the end because it's just coastline, and people don't even think about how insanely large this place is. Like it literally goes from La Anguille in Bretonia to Caracadrin on the other side of the empire. That's how long Norska stretches. It's insanely huge, and it's all coastline. You can be invaded at any point, and this place is where the developer said, do they need walls? Do they really need walls?
It makes it worse now that they can get attacked from both sides as well.
Yeah, and like ever since Warhammer 2, the Dark Elves have also come in to like start messing with you and stuff like that. Like one of my first ones I did in Warhammer 3 as well. Like Master Mundi showed up for some god awful reason, and Eltharion and all that. Because it's even further now with the like Albion.
Now that is an anti-player bias right there.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, if you check the lore, for example, like Norska is a place that has abundance of wildlife to hunt. It has like rare gems. The more southern Norskans, for example, are just like traders. They're not like bloodthirsty barbarians, because Norska basically operates on the cycle of being raided, becoming raiders. The raiders eventually become so successful they start farming, get raided, and then it's just the evil cycle continues all the time. But Norska is completely unloved and 100% needs something, because their small settlements aren't that great. And some people have told me like, no, they're fine now because they changed their harbor, like their ports, and they can like have settlements everywhere. But like it doesn't work like that. And some people even say that they're a raiding faction. And they're not, because it's like 5 turns which was, by the way, turned down from 8 in Warhammer 2 for global recruitments. Like 5 turns on raiding faction. Like you can't recruit anything then if people are hunting you still. Like it's mental how bad they are. So here's my little proposition, right? Norsca needs to be this inhospitable place that you can actually defend. The problem with Norsca is that you can't afford enough armies to actually like walk around there and defend. You can a little bit more now, but it's still like you can still be defended, like actually attacked everywhere. The chaos attrition needs to be so much harsher for people who aren't of anything chaos, right? And Norsca is also kind of synonymous with Warriors of Chaos, so it gets a little bit tricky. But the tribes of Norsca, well, if you count Norsca now with like the Dolgans and the Hung and stuff like that, like there are so many of them now. And you can have literally one where you have to unite every tribe instead. Either vassalize them or have them like as a good place. Because for example, like the Hung, they're great as like horse riders. The Kurgans, Kurgans are like an umbrella term for like a bunch of different tribes, for example. But for example, you have Dolgans that have CRS queens, which do like ice magic. Their tribe like give misfortune and like luck curses basically towards people. And they're Slaneshi tribe as well, so they can have just a small BDSM gear and run fast. I don't know. Then you have the Dark Argols, which have like 50% women basically fighting with them. You have the Varg are really the only ones that are represented because Norsca is really diverse. You have like all of these Slaneshi, Nurgle tribes, everything. But the only thing you really have are like Khorne tribes. That's it. Like who worship the Axe Father, blah, blah, blah. But you also have like the Greylings, which are werekin, right? Like werebears and things like this, which are really cool. You also have the Tong, which in the Archaeum books have like these giant fire catapults drawn by the by Rhinoxes. You have Hmong that have spirit steeds that are like possessed steeds and warpstone spears, which, for example, by the Hmong in that book are led by a dude called Humongous. He's just a huge dude on a chariot. And then you even have like the dreaded Woe, which are in the game, and they're chaos Cathayans basically that are considered Norscans, but they're basically like Jade warriors that are like completely black armor, cool as heck. But then you also have different tribes that work with chaos worshipping dwarves, which are not chaos dwarves, but dwarves that actually worship the chaos gods. What are they called? The Dwarves of Hell Peak, which are also pretty cool. Like you have so many different cool things that it's just like, why couldn't you just like try to conquer all of these? And then this is my absolute pet peeve. This is something I actually get mad about. Wulfric, cursed to one of the world-seeking challenges and duels, right? So he just travels the world on a teleporting boat. He's the one dude in the lore that can teleport. He goes in a ship, he goes into the goddamn warp like a 40k ship, goes out anywhere, goes, wow, here's to fight, and then, fights that, goes home. Now, he's like, I'll be there in 20 turns. My weapon of choice, mammoth. And then he sits like this on the mammoth.
He doesn't move, does he?
It's like,
yeah, do it, guys.
Hammer Challenger.
Look, I don't know what you're complaining about. The boat is in the game. He throws it at people. So
it's a summon. It's a ghost boat that just
the lore of boats. Lore of boats. Cast it 3 times. Boats.
Every time I use Wulfric and I do that, I just think of that Austin Powers bit where the guy throws the shoe and he goes, "What kind of guy throws a shoe?" You can see there's this poor Empire Spearman going, "What the fuck are they doing throwing a boat at me?"
It's especially sad if you're like, he has that, and then the Vampire Coast have just that, but better. It's a giant galley with cannons, and then Wulfric's just here with his tiny little canoe. Like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do against that?
Noskins don't have cannons. They just have to throw the actual boat. It's just ramming, but
just make it big.
The thing about it, but the thing about it is that it fucking teleports. You go from one place to the other in like one turn. Like, imagine playing a Wulfric campaign.
I don't want to.
And then you get a quest. Hey, you get a really good trait like Imric. You get a quest battle. You have to travel and fight Cetra. And then you go, okay, I'll go into my blessed cursed boats, my blurst goddamn boats, and I'll be there next turn. I'll fight the coolest quest battle I can, get a cool trait, maybe a little item. Be home tomorrow. I can even defend my shitty place.
Yeah, I've got a point, right? Oxyotl, his mechanic.
Oh, that's so true.
Except rather than some, weird jungle music in between, picture of a boat. Job done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would totally work. That little panel right there is just missions that pop up. They have a timer on them. Either you do it or you don't. I think that would be a perfect implementation.
Yep. Visions of the old one? No. Whispers of the Chaos Gods. Job done.
My problem with Norska is that I feel like Norska lacks identity. Like, its identity is all over the damn place. Like, as they are in the game now, they are Chaos Warriors light. Like, they are just like, we're just rejects. We're not quite there yet. Like, in my mind, Norska is Norse. They're just the Vikings. But as you said in your description, I mean, the problem is right now, Norska technically extends all the way from Langwil all the way to Grand Cathay. Those are all Norska, right? Even though they're different tribes with very different personalities, different cultures. And it's like, there needs to be sort of a picked area to call Norska if you're going to do that, or, make the tribes more independent, make them have these local rosters, things like that. I just feel like that, when they've been around for so long in the lore that it's become fuzzy sort of who they wanted to go with. Like, if you have bear changing guys, and werewolves and stuff like that, it's like, cool, lean into that raiding mentality, cool. That's what you do it. Right. But as it is, it's sort of just not anything. It's just not as good as everybody else at any of those things.
Hey, Damneders, I ran out of space. I can't record anymore.
Oh, good.
Just FYI.
Oh, good. So I've got my audio, so it's just going to be me and Cody just on screen, and then you and Monsters just a JPEG.
I fixed mine. It's fine.
Oh, brilliant.
Nice.
Okay. So we'll just tag you in and then get Fred out. That's
what I was asking. I was like, dude, these files are huge. Like, you want me to send you this? Like, just record the screen.
I don't know. It's just, I'll probably go back to that, to be honest, because we've done it once and Monsters just knacked up the audio. And then Fred's has just crashed. It's all good.
You know what? Hold on. I'll fix this.
Just delete those family photos. You don't need them. You'll remember. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Kids, they grow up.
Okay, now it's working again. Okay, but anyway, picture the Wulfric campaign that you actually go out and you hunt stuff. You go out and actually just become stronger and be the ever challenger up until you win. It's not one of those own 500 places campaigns. And maybe you're thinking, but Throg not like that. The most intelligent troll talks really weirdly, but I'm not going to go into that because he like Throg is an intelligent troll. If you ever read the Slayer novel, which is really cool, Throg doesn't try to, like, he's getting cornered by Gotrek, right? Gotrek Gurnison is so powerful that you can basically put him into a room with any Primarch from 40k or anything like that, and I would bet my entire life savings on Gotrek coming out on top, like 100%. And Throg is getting cornered by this malevolent entity of destruction, right? And he doesn't try to bribe him with gold and silver and stuff like that. Nothing so plebeian, no. He promises him like lost holds, books of grudges, like maps and culture artifacts and things like that. Things of importance, because he understands that those are important to him. And he understands that gold only has... gold is not worth something in itself, but only what gold can buy, right? So he can go out and get holds to get these artifacts, which will give him bonuses, like the trophy mechanic, for example, in Three Kingdoms. And for him to travel, because it has to be a little bit, better, like he can't just travel like a plebeian if the other dude can teleport wherever he is. So then you have the underways that he can use, but not just like a stance where he just jumps somewhere, but like points of interest on the map, like sea lanes, where you can travel, but you choose like you go in here and you want to go out there. perfect, like the portal system from Be'lakor, but it's the underways, and it takes like a turn or something like that. Because he can figure out how to use the underways. It's no problem for him. He's literally not smart for a troll. He's one of the smartest things in the world. That's his curse.
I think your system for the underways, I would just like to see that in general. I think the current underways mechanic is woefully outdated. Like, being able to jump under a mountain, like, come on, man, nobody cares. Like, the idea of doing, like, the sea lanes, but it's different points around the world, it's like, yes, it's something, any kind of thing like that.
But, like, Be'lakor portals, where you actually choose where to go.
Like the sea lanes, where it's only the player that can utilize it, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, the AI can never use stuff like that anyway. They never do.
Then where you get ambushed by a random army. Make it where there's a risk.
But I think this kind of comes back to...
I mean...
some of the problems that Total War has, which is, one, all of the victory conditions are boring as shit. And two, we really need navies back. Because having armies that can just walk into the sea is incredibly irritating. And it also means that any coastline is nigh on impossible to defend, because they will just walk into the sea and then walk out and attack your settlement.
I mean, this is where Norsca could shine. You know, its navies would be ever present. You know, they are a constant present everywhere. You know, is there a way of maybe making... let's assume they're not going to add navies back in, but is there a way of making each area of the sea a zone so you can control the sea? You know, if you have X number of boat armies out there, does everybody else get attrition when they try and cross the water? You know, is there a version of this that can work with the existing system?
I think the problem is getting the AI to utilize that. The reason they made it so that armies can just walk into the sea is because it was impossible to get the AI to do naval invasions. But what's that turn? I mean, I just remember playing Troy and having to sit in an island in ambush stance so that as the AI tried to sail past me, I could jump out and hit them and then run back and ambush again, because that's the only way you could stop them. Otherwise, you just end up chasing them up and down the coastline forever, which is the most frustrating thing.
That literally feels like an IRL problem. That 100% feels like they did that in IRL. They just made like a fort, sail out of there as soon as they saw like a ship that wasn't supposed to be there.
That is legitimately how people
like
actually fought against River Raiders for like millennia. It's always a pain in the ass.
Yeah, which is fine, but from a gameplay perspective, it's incredibly boring.
Yeah.
But also that could then work in, if you do have a faction that is raiding, like Norsca, then it would make sense that maybe they can just walk into the sea and attack wherever. It always kind of weirded me out that Norsca can't just, as a raiding faction, like, and it would be incredibly annoying to play against, but they still get that thing where you use up most of your movement by landing. And it always felt like maybe they should be the one faction that doesn't have that problem. It makes them a little bit more maneuverable.
I'm also gonna chime in there with like that they need something that might be getting like an ambush or something like that if they go into the underways or something like that. I'm gonna say no, because Oxyotl, Wood Elves, they already teleports. They have none of those shenanigans. There's no reason why Norsca has to be the subpar faction. Even in our wildest dreams, when we're sitting here like, this is what I want, we're like, maybe make them a little bit shitty just because.
Just for the culture.
It's like the worst bargaining ever.
We're so beaten.
Just for the culture. Yeah, basically. It's like when people go, they can just add in this one and it'll be easy for CA. They just need to reskin this one and it's gonna be better. Like, nah. CA can do like cool stuff. Just don't bargain. Don't try to do stuff like that. They'll make something good anyway. What the hell? Like, stop bargaining.
Our expectations are now so low for Creative Assembly that we're just like, come on, guys.
It's always been like this.
Just reskin this one guy. Reuse this other mechanic, please.
Anything.
But I think that's my Norsca pitch. Travel the world, seek challenges. Everyone just unite the tribes, either via vassalization or take them over. Make it more defendable, because it is an awful place to be at if you're not Norscan, even though it has like tons of wildlife to hunt and stuff like that. It's not good to be there if you're not from there.
I really like that idea, because of the idea of the Kurgan. I was a really big Highlander fan as a kid. And that is where I know the Kurgan.
Oh yeah,
from.
the Kurgan.
I love the idea that there can be only one, and so you hunt down the other heads in the world, and each head you collect gives you a little bit extra bonuses to it. And I think there's just something really fun about that. You know, having that faction lean into that.
I mean, we're gonna have Kurgans in the next DLC if Tamarkan is there. Tamarkan is a Kurgan. Asavar Kul, the Everchosen before that was also a Kurgan, and technically, I guess I think Archaon is also a Kurgan. Technically, because it's once again like Kurgan is like an umbrella. It's like a giant tribe held together by a lot of smaller tribes.
Step tribes, basically.
So a bunch of tribes. Yeah, so it's like the Cool or a Kurgan tribe, stuff like that. Yeah, that's my pitch. And Gil really needs this cell. God damn it!
Gil really needs this one. Come on, guys! Come on. It's all right.
Come on, guys.
You know, you talk about. I guess I'll go next. Does that mean now?
Yep.
Unless somebody gets Norse guy. All right, cool.
Yeah, if nobody wants any feedback on the Norskins.
I mean, I think that's it. I mean, it's like everyone was chattering the whole time because it's like, yes, please, all these ideas.
I would also make the monster hunts work.
Okay, I was just. Why does he have monster hunts? He's dueling people. Why would he go and hunt monsters? Why would they even make him hunt?
I just want it to fucking work. That's all. It's a very. No, I just want that quest line. The quest lines not to break, and for that entire mechanic to be rendered completely fucking useless.
I think it was too hard to make him hunt monsters. People, and they had played The Witcher too much. That's it.
Hey.
Who hasn't, you know?
Such a good game.
Yeah, it was released like what a year after The Witcher anyway, which was 2000. No, oh damn, how long ago was Witcher?
I mean, the first one was like 2004.
Oh, third one, 2015. Oh yeah, it's 2 years after then.
It's almost 10 years old. Oh no.
It's still a good game though. Still very
absolutely.
Anyway, Cody.
Like, yeah.
Take it away.
Do your thing.
Okay.
What faction do you want to sell us on?
No.
I want to sell you on Bretonia. Anyone who's been on my Discord knows I have a special soft spot for Bretonia. And this actually stems from the fact that 2 years ago, right at the end of Warhammer 2, I was actually working on a DLC. Like I was making my own DLC to kind of prove it as a port of concept. And I was going to make a Bertrand the Brigand with an orc guy. That's not important right now. But Bertrand the Brigand, if you guys don't know, is sort of like a Robin Hood character. And the idea was I wanted to make a Draika-style faction, something that's the antithesis of Bretonia. And so I sort of had to learn what Bretonia is in the game. And I discovered I didn't like it. Which really bugs me to this day. And so I ended up like stopping to do that to begin working on a mechanical rework for Bretonia because I was just like, I want to fix these mechanics so badly because they're so boring. And part of it goes to what you're talking about with the victory objectives. Gain 2,000 chivalry. Okay, well that ensures I never use the Green Knight mechanic and I never do certain things, and it's so incredibly restrictive. I would scrap the chivalry.
It's actually 10,000.
It's a bigger world, you know, so just up the number. That makes it more fun, right? So scrap that entirely. We'll get back to it in a minute. First thing I fixed was the peasant system. I hate that peasant system. It is so useless. Swap it out for the harmony system from Cathay. Basically, you either have high peasants or low peasants, right? So you have a lot of peasants standing around doing nothing, in which case they're farming, your economy is working really well, but your public order drops and you don't have anybody to recruit. Or you recruit them all, right? And if you recruit a bunch of your peasant population drops. Therefore, you have less income, but higher public order or high control, whichever one it is, right? So it's that constant check and balance of, hey, do you want to recruit a lot of people? Cool, your farm's going to suck for a bit. Or you release them and you have internal problems to deal with. Make it dynamic. Make it not just a number that goes up. That's not fun for anyone, right? Where's my choices right here? The Green Knight. Fix the flippin' Green Knight. You know a guy I never use in any campaign? The Green Knight. Because I'm always
really
like,
bad.
He's bad, one. But I'm also like, oh, well, I might need him for that next battle when I really need him. I'm one of those people. And so I never summon him. Because you only get to use him 3 times in the entire game? Or something. It's like a temporary summon and he goes away. Like, again, make him one of those active abilities on the right-hand side of the screen. It's like, you have the Lady's Blessing. When you summon Green Knight.
When you get maximum chivalry, you can actually just keep him forever.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
But even then, I don't bother summoning
it's still a little
so
cool
if I have
he
the
goes away for
10,000
like
chivalry
a turn
and
or
I
two.
finish the game, I get to keep him.
Yeah.
You don't finish it just because you have
to do the
10,000.
infantry battle, right? You have to do that quest battle.
Yeah, the one that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, and then
Are you
it
sure?
works now. I actually finished the
Because
campaign just a couple of days ago.
The reinforcements came in from random directions, so
I think they fixed it, yeah.
For me, this is all related to the fact that I really like being right. It makes me feel really good as a person. And I will go out of my way to be right sometimes. And just, I don't ever say I told you so, but I'm just like, it's that warm feeling inside my person to be like, yeah, I was right. And Bertrand the Brigand, I got so much poop. I have kids in the background for creating Bertrand, and everyone's like, no, Bretonia doesn't need this stuff, because I was like, I want bombards, I want guns back, I want like Bretonia 3rd edition brigands, like I want somebody that's the anti-chivalry, whose whole job is to hunt down knights and make their life miserable, stakes in the ground, dirty fighting, right? Everyone's like, that's not Bretonia. Yeah, I'm aware. Hey, have you guys played Old World at all, or seen Old World?
I've played it.
Yeah, all that's back in. And when I saw that all that brigand stuff had come back, I was like, they get it. They get it. And it made me feel so good to see someone else also saw that. And it made me like, yes. On top of that, though, the Crusade system, because it's not called Errantry Wars. They just called it Crusades. Like, they're just going to straight call it what it is. A Crusade system needs to come back for Bretonia. You know, chivalry is a resource. Great. You know, you spend your chivalry, you spend your whatever point you want to have to launch a crusade. You know, you have your main kingdoms, you go out, you found these other kingdoms, you come back, whatever you want. And like the blessing of the lady is something that can be lost. You fight another Bretonian kingdom, blessing of the lady. She don't like that, you know. Go do something awesome to get it back. The idea that, you know, honor is something that can be taken away, and it's constantly something you're having to, you know, fight to keep. You know, it's not easy. I just think there's so much interesting stuff that can be done they're not doing.
The blessing of the lady is a buff you get if you win a loss, and if you lose or retreat or something like that, you lose the blessing.
Right, but it shouldn't work against Bretonians. That's a basic tabletop rule on that one. If two Bretonian armies fight each other, nobody gets the blessing. Lady does not bless this. It's silly, but it's like, oh, okay, it changes how you play. It forces you to use their confederation mechanic, you know. But I just think there's different ways of, you know, like you're saying, like find a new way to make these systems work for yourself. You know, even like changing like how you focus on this stuff and pushing it forward goes a long way. I see these rework ideas there that I'm like, everyone's like, oh, give them the Warriors of Chaos upgrade system. Like, not everybody needs that, man. Like, what is a peasant going to do? Be less peasant?
Completely disagree. Cares. You have a peasant mob, eventually become a Grail Knight. Perfect.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because that level of social mobility is totally there, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Chivalry shouldn't just be a resource. It should be a spectrum. It should be like Malice's Possession thing, where you can be honorable and you get all these buffs to control or whatever. You get the green eye if you really want to keep him. Or you can just be like, you know what? Scorched earth, motherfuckers. I'm going completely dishonorable. Everyone in Bretonia hates me. Complete countrymen at war. But my lord like kicks ass or something. He gets ridiculous buffs to make him so strong.
I'm gonna try back in because I actually used Malice's system when I was using Bertrand. That's how I had Bertrand working, which is you would raid stuff and your bar would go up, and you could always give to the poor, and so it would go back down again. So it would remove the money you had gained, but it also restore some honor. And so it was a constant little thing where Bertrand could, you know, either recruit brigands or not, depending on how much of that bar he had. But it's just funny you mentioned that because it's exactly.
Me and you were always on the same wavelength.
You know what I would like to see is if you had those crusades where it would like target a certain province, so it would go, this province, take it. And if you took that province, it would like give you a boost of chivalry or something.
Just like a
WA target? Yeah, it's a WA target.
Yeah, something like that, but like a province. And then it would turn that province into basically a vassal. So you'd end up like crusade estates all over the place.
I like vassals.
That's kind of cool.
I can see Damners being like, no, but like I like vassals, and I totally think that's a great system because I mean that makes perfect sense to me. As you said, it's something you don't have to babysit. It's on the far side of the world. You do it, you go back home again.
Yeah, I absolutely hate having a whole load of settlements which I cannot be bothered to upgrade. Actually, I love the fact that the Warriors of Chaos. I'm just going to give all this. I've got these like 10 settlements that I care about. Everything else is just vassals, and I don't have to care about it. And it also means I don't get bogged down because I don't have to protect, you know, my far western front with the 5 armies that my economy allows. I can concentrate.
I don't know about that one. I spent roughly 40 turns making a goblin the king of the entire empire with Festus once. So, not sure about that. It's completely true.
So much. I love that idea. Like, I like, because there's so much space between your home kingdom and where that is. That's such an elegant solution for it. I friggin' great.
I would like it if vassals were just a little bit. They're just still not great. They're just.
I mean, like, I mean, yeah, no, they're garbage. I was playing Kolek the other month, and I was at war with a bunch of guys, and my vassals were just standing around their little capitals. They'd have like 3 stacks, and I can't be bothered. It's a long walk.
Turning up their aggressiveness, just changing their general AI so they're not passive.
I mean, well, what they're supposed to do really is like, even if you're owning like half the world, you only have like a couple of places that actually produce military units or actually production places. The rest are economy, right? So a vassal is just like a larger swath where you don't control it, just the economy place, because they just give like tribute to you anyway. Like that's their entire job. They don't need to do tons. It would be cool if they actually did something, but as long as they don't lose, I mean, like I'm kind of fine with vassals. But I'm also going to say that Bretonia is one of my favorite factions in the entire game. Whenever somebody says like they want to rework it, I'm always like, oh, really? But I do agree with you. Like that's a super goddamn cool idea. And like the vassal states as well, that monsters say are super cool. The things that I would like to change though is, so I played this faction. This is probably like the most played faction I have. Like in Warhammer 2, I think my record was like turn 51 or something like that for winning a Response campaign on Legendary, and on I just redid a Response campaign just a couple of days ago. They need to make peasants good enough to use, because whenever I play Bretonia, I get cavalry from the get-go. I don't ever get peasants. I might get like some archers, but it's only cavalry, like 100% cavalry, because I honestly don't know how the peasant system really works, because I never get any peasants. So I just get farms, and I know that they would take a beating if I had a lot of peasants. But why would I have peasants? Even people who go like, oh, well, Response is good for peasants. Like, well, yeah, but she's even better with cavalry because she gives her entire army frenzy. And if you have a bunch of Hippogriff Knights and Grail Knights with frenzy, that's going to beat the shit out of any peasant with frenzy.
Also,
like
the peasant economy is so good. The Bretonians have the best economy in the game.
Yeah.
It's
it's crazy good.
You can make your minor like settlements give you 1,500 income over that. Just for so.
Also, like. It's like Bordeaux. Nobody ever thinks about this, but since you have like wine you sell for 12, I think it is a gold per unit. And that thing, like on highest level, it's like 144 goddamn wines. So like in the end, you get like 2,070 something from it, together with like the 20% from the harbor and stuff like that. Like Bordeaux is cranked. Like you get so much money from that place if you own it.
Additional bonuses to like trade and stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, but Albrecht is in Lustria now.
He is, you're right. I'm sorry. He moved in the Animal Empires. That's wild.
For some reason.
Yeah, like they get so much money. And all order factions always like, they can always export 100% of everything, because they have every trade partner in the goddamn world, unless you're really unlucky and the order tide isn't happening. God, I hate the order tide. But man, like peasants and Grailer Reliquates. Grailer Reliquates are like, what are they? Like immune psychology and 8 leadership and some melee attack or something
they
like that around it. I can't remember.
Didn't they? Because no one was bothering to use them because they were garbage.
Because they're lame.
Yeah. But like Grailer Reliquates really need like some insane aura around them, like a goddamn Chaos War Shrine. They need to give like 50, like upwards towards 20 ward save or something for like them to be good, like something absolutely insane, because you know it's an insane unit. Why not make it fun?
Yeah, one of my favorite mods for Bretonnia reduces the count of nearly every cavalry unit. Like, Grail Knights go from being a count of like 36 down to like 6. They become like the Chaos Warrior Elite guys. Yeah. And just generally making cavalry more expensive and difficult to field large amounts of, because it forces you to then use the peasants. I mean, they shouldn't be something where you can just do an all-cav army at turn 10.
But you totally can.
But you can. Yeah, you totally can. That's the thing, right?
They're too strong as well. Like I was just using errant knights until like the absolute last battle, and I absolutely wiped the floor with everything. And they're on tier 2 cavalry. Like, it's crazy.
No, you want
if you can cycle charge.
you want a stack of Grail Knights.
No, that's the thing. Everyone always says like, Bretonnia, you need to be good at microing, you need to cycle charge, stuff like that. No, they're so strong. You go in and you charge in, and then maybe you have like 1 or 2 that goes in from the back as well on flank. But they just, like, when those things are dead, you just keep on going with them. Like, you don't need to cycle charge with Bretonnia. It's not a micro-heavy faction if you just, choose the engagements well.
If you've got a stack of Grail Knights, you only need the 1 charge. That's enough.
I mean, I did that with Errant Knights as well, just the 1 charge. They're pretty cranked, but yeah. No, the anti-Bretonnia faction sounds really cool, actually.
About vows.
So that's a good one.
I kind of hate vows.
They're fine.
Yes, because some of the vows some of the vows are shits, especially the second one. I hate the idea
of having to do side quests to use the good units.
But like, first of all, you need to be reminded to use them, because I miss them every once in a while. Everybody misses them once in a while. Unless you're like, yes, let's go through the itinerary here. What do I do before I press end turn? I've done this. Yes, I've done this. Vows. Oh, yes, that's right. No, I haven't done this. And then you go there and you're like, oh, yes, I will have to do a sea battle. Or like a goddamn jungle or desert siege. Or I will do, whatever. The second ones are absolute garbage. The one before ones are pretty good, because you can always pick like rank up 5 times. And the last one is like kill 5 lords in battle. You can choose those. And they're really easy. And I swear to God, if somebody from CA ever listens to this, those are the ones they're just going to remove. Like 100%.
Right, so you now must go to Norska, fight a battle on the coastline, lose but not lose your lord, and then come all the way back and then build a vineyard whilst your lord is in the settlement, and then wait 6 turns. And that is your level 5 vow.
Yeah, it's just going to be... You can only, like for the third one, you only have to fight like Lost Ericsson or like one of the other like tribesmen that will just die, or like be wandering somewhere where you can never find him.
Probably.
It's pretty bad.
That's all I've got.
Oh, brilliant.
That's it. I mean, that was my basis of my Bretonnia stuff. Yeah, for Bertrand, I wanted to actually use something similar to like a horde mechanic, like you guys said. And the idea was wherever he went, he would liberate a city, and they would become a vassal called the Peasant Liberation Front.
Nice. I like that idea.
Nice. Then Bretonnia would be like, yes, this is where...
We're going back around to the second faction.
Circling.
You got this.
I feel like you guys have come with like new mechanics. I've just gone off like the stuff that is already there and just kind of been like trying to force it to work somehow.
Just like CA.
Yeah. Well, because I'm like thinking, I mean, I could say, this and that and all these new mechanics. They're never going to do it because the spaghetti code is so terrible. They're just going to be like, right, this mechanic that we've currently got, just try and make it not bad. So, Lizard Men. Which, to be fair, if you're playing like anyone other than like Mazdamundi and Kroggar, Lizardmen are okay, but like their base mechanics are the Geomantic Web and the Blessed Spawnings, and that's kind of it. They're just not very good. They have rights, which is, whatever. A lot of people have rights. It doesn't make them all that unique.
Rite of Ferocity, the only thing you hate to see pop up that they've used, the AI has used.
Can't deny that. But I feel like you could just like combine the Blessed Spawnings and the Web into something that's like just one good mechanic instead of 2 crappy ones, because the Blessed Spawns, and they're just like quests that randomly pop, and then you get units that you can summon as a reward. It's just very...
Yeah.
It's just nothing. I mean...
That's such a sick idea. That's actually a sick idea. Like having the stronger the web is in the middle of that one will like pop a better blessed spawning, like a stronger one, or more of them.
That's really clever. Like as you said, the more green right there is in the middle, the better it's going to do there. I mean, that's super logical.
So like instead of the web, because it's all connected to the buildings, isn't it? The web buildings, which take forever to build for some reason. So instead of that, like you don't really need to do that much to just have it so like allied settlements like provide adjacency bonuses. So like if you are completely surrounded by allied or owned lands, that settlement in the middle has really high web power because it's it's connected to other things in the web, but the ones on the edge are a little bit weaker. Wow, like an actual web works. Crazy. And then, like I said, the blessed spawnings kind of, I'm not saying get rid of the lizardmen recruitment completely, but maybe like some of their ridiculously elite units, like the dread saurin, maybe that can only be used as like in the high web power area, I suppose, as a blessed unit. And you can keep all like the same bonuses before to the commandments, maybe make them a bit more exciting, maybe make it so they have some exciting abilities that they can use from areas where the web power is really strong, because the lizardmen literally have space lasers. Why aren't we, they're in battle, why aren't we using those on the campaign? I want to drop an orbital strike like Helldivers 2, a space laser directly onto a Ikit base from across the map, but I can't do that.
You need an engine of the gods to calibrate that. That's always that's the funniest thing always when people go like, oh yes, they're like the Unga Bunga faction, right? There's some skinky sitting there like, okity papa.
Literally like Lizard Star Trek. It's ridiculous.
They're like
the same.
Yeah, and the satellite just goes like.
But at the same time, you go, okay, what are our frontline warriors armed with exactly? It's like
sticks,
a stick, and a pointy
stick. No, you mean what are the genetically modified, technically immortal frontline armed with? Because Krokgar, for example, he has alien weapons. He has like some Stargate
Iron
stuff.
Man repulsor glove thing.
Yeah,
he's basically got a power fist.
Yeah, and the spear as well. Like, those are literally like alien weapons.
His glaive is effectively a power weapon. Basically, it's a 40k power weapon.
Yeah, the dude is 12,000 years or 11,000 years old or something like that. It's fought more than like most countries have done combined. Uses alien tech and everything like that, and he's like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna ride a dinosaur. And it's like, yeah, fair dinkum, mates.
The geomantic web, the kind of way I thought maybe it'd be a good was be if you start off and it goes, there's a random settlement sort of within a radius around you that goes, that's the next part of the web. So you go, okay, I need to take that. Once you've taken that, it goes, okay, this is now the next part of the web. And you kind of like have to build it up. And I thought that worked because it might go, now you need this settlement. And you go, oh shit, that's one of my ally settlements. But for the lizardmen, they don't care. They're just,
that would work so well.
That's it. You're going to give it to me. Otherwise, I'm going to pummel you until I own it, basically. Because they kind of do things based on what,
Yeah, I mean, the
greater good. Well, not even greater good. The great plan.
Great plan,
Yeah, the great plan. Because here's the thing. Because I always say that Master Mundi is basically the Michael Scoss of Warhammer, right? Because the thing about Lizardmen is that they have the great plan that they have to fulfill, but everybody who actually knows the great plan are dead. Now Croak, you might say, but he's kind of ran. Well, the lights are on, but nobody's home, right? So they kind of wheel out that dude like a little sentry turret that just goes like nuke stuff basically with his ghost powers, right? But you can't ask that dude anything. So all they do is basically like the middle management is sitting there like, no, it's probably fine. I'm just gonna meditate, and then like some leaf will switch in the pond. They're like, that's a sign I'm changing the mountains again. 10,000 dwarves dead, and he's like,
worth it.
Probably you did something.
Oh, for the great plan.
Yeah. And like it would work so well if it would be like, yeah, now you have to take this city, and they would be like, yeah, okay. Like, makes sense.
It should feel a bit more chaotic good, really.
I mean, they are the Order faction. They are literally on that side of the spectrum.
Damners, I think you're really onto something with this. Like, I think that tying that Star Trek style technology to the web, I mean, it makes it feel like you're taking them from Unga Bunga to, Star Reptile at that point. I mean, you do get, I would love to see easier orbital cannons because I love that giant pillar of fire. It's so cool. And it's like, it feels more like a progression at that point instead of just bigger dinosaurs. which are cool, but it's like there's more to the faction than that, and really trying to lean into it. I think it's a great idea.
Thanks. I'm not gonna lie, I did this one very off the cuff. I did this one extremely off the cuff. I've got like three lines of like web suck, make better, blessed spawning's also not great, lasers.
Sounds like you're basically on par with CA at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. I actually hacked into their system and I got their DLC plans.
Monster's idea of like making the next part of the web, like it just randomly selects ones around you. I like that because of the randomness. Like, it feels like too often a lot of the mechanics always spawn in the same place. And so you're always going to the same 4 or 5 places for the books or the whatever else. So this forces you to really, like you said, well, maybe this ally, too bad, buddy, part of the great plan.
Yep, you're in my way.
Ribbit.
Yeah, it does.
That hyperspace bypass.
I think one of Master Mundy's campaign faction facts, like most factions hate him, so that would like fit perfectly with this is why most factions hate this guy, because it's like, the great plan storm with it, I need to nuke you and build my city there, so move.
Master Mundi is like I actually hate that character. I love the lore character, but I hate like him in the game. Because in the lore, he's the strongest alive spellcaster there is. Like he literally just creates a mountain range because the Dark Elves keep raiding him, and the mountain range knows who to let through because it's sentient.
Up a fence, isn't it? Because your neighbor's
right?
annoying.
Like he just makes this. Like he's so powerful. The ruination of cities literally is like taking a small piece of the moon and just like telekinetically and just like hurling it down to nuke a city. And in the game, it's like
random as well. So if you use it anywhere near your army, you're bound to just get annihilated by it.
So they just made him a tank mage, which is like, well, I mean, like, can't you choose if you want to go tank mage or the other one or something like that? Like, he's so like insanely powerful in the lore. Like, it's basically the most powerful spellcaster like Teclis, Nagash, but Master Mundi is just so above them that it's like it's crazy to even like compare them basically. And then Croak, who's just like refusing to die, like Nagash, I guess. And then later on, he just comes back as well. Is it like an Age of Sigmar as well, where he basically just goes, I'm gonna be alive again? He just is alive, not undead or anything like that. Just comes back alive.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's
sounds like Age of Sigmar.
Probably. Yeah, just like use the tech. There's not enough tech in them. You've got the Engine of the Gods, and that's about it. The rest of it is very much just Unga Bunga, as we say. Yeah. Make lizardmen smart.
Again.
That's it. Again, they would never.
I mean, they don't have enough management, I think, to be smart. That's kind of the thing about them, because it's just the middle managers alive now, and they're kind of running the company, and they don't know what they're doing. That's kind of the charm with Lizardmen, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about them.
But well, it's like the Dreadsaurian, right? The Dreadsaurian are like sacred to the Lizardmen, because it's just a giant dinosaur where they're like, it's fucking cool, man. So they just like strap any kind of artifacts. Yeah, so they just like strap any magical artifact they still have, like any kind of like alien smartwatch or like shielding systems or anything like that on them. Like anything they have, they don't even understand how those things work anymore. They just like strap those on, and they're like, yeah, it's invulnerable to projectiles, and its heart rate is at 130.
It flies in a T-pose.
I just had a mental picture, and I want to. Do you guys know Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, with the Naboo, where it's like a bunch of like Gungans who don't know what they're doing, but there's like shield generators and they're launching power balls. That's kind of what this Lizardmen sort of feel like. I've never really connected that before. So we got spears and we're riding things, but we also have this crazy tech that we don't know how it works.
I guess the problem was that when Lizardmen were first introduced to Warhammer, they were significantly more Umba Bunga, and the sort of tech stuff was very, very hesitantly sprinkled in. And then as time's gone on, they've become a little bit more,
I mean, it's kind of like
ancient aliens, but the two sides kind of never really gelled particularly well.
It's a bit like Icky Claw. Like the Skaven were always, they were doing stuff. They had some tech here and there, and then they added Icky Claw, and it was just like, whoa, the ridiculousness has been amped up. If you just like give that to Mazda Money, it's like, yeah, he can upgrade things with technology and just make it stupid. I'd love that.
Did you do a little pick me up there? It looks like you were like,
Jello shots.
Oh, me? Oh, that was for my son. I was an orange cup.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like handling food to 4-year-olds in the background. So 2 things on top of that. One, for anyone that doesn't know Oonga Boonga, we're saying they're like stereotypical tribal. Like, you know, when you think of like someone throwing a rock at somebody to attack them, you know, everyone's wearing loincloths. That's Oonga Boonga. Because I don't think that's universal. And 2, Ancient Aliens. I actually know someone that used to work on that show. And the research on it is every bit as bad as you think. She was actually a trained archaeologist. She was the only person with a background in history at the time, and everyone else used to write for sci-fi. So she did not do that job for very long, to say the least.
I'd imagine that would be very grating on your sanity if you actually knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, oh, the pyramids were made by aliens. It's like, why?
Because it's hard. Oh, what the hell?
It's large rocks put on other rocks.
There he is.
He's still... Nope.
I think my
died.
internet just died for a second. I don't know what the hell that was all about.
You're back.
The camera's having a minute. Oh, hey! No idea what that was.
I think you've been recording for so long your computer could no longer handle it, if I had to guess.
No, I didn't stop recording. How much? I've got plenty of space.
Yeah, I've got terabytes, so I'm fine.
I need to get a bigger hard drive.
Terabytes.
No, just the 1 terabyte free for this, but it should be fine. Only an hour and a half in. That's
Are we just going back round? So shall I go?
yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
All right, Cathay.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
They've had a rework
controversial.
with the DLC, actually.
It was shit.
Correct.
So the
That was such a minor tweak. I didn't know, like, the rework.
So they reworked Harmony, because obviously before it used to be faction-wide, and then they changed it so it's based on... Is it province or city now? I think it's province. I think it's province.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've got Harmony, which I quite like how it works on the battlefield, but the campaign side of it has always felt a little bit micro-y. Because you've effectively doubled up all of your buildings so that you can have one which is black and one which is white. And then you need to pick the correct building to put... And then it used to be harder because the generals also were either black or white, and now they're just not, so you don't have to worry about that. But some of the special landmark buildings are either black or white, so now you need to take that into consideration. And basically it's just really awkward. It doesn't really work very well. And you get the Wujing compass, where you've got the one good compass point, which gives you more money, and the rest, which is great. Unless you're playing, of course, as Mary Sue, sorry, Yuan Bo, and then you get 4 more, which are all universally terrible. So you just use the money one, which of course is the best one. Then you got the Ivory Road, which is trade, which works the first 50 turns if you're lucky, and then is universally useless. And the Great Bastion, which is just basically a pain in the arse to defend. Yeah, so that's all their mechanics, and they're just... I remember when we got shown Cathay and their mechanics, and the first thing I said about the caravan was, how is this going to work later on when everyone hates your guts? And I never got a decent response. However, the answer is not well. So I don't think Caravan should be on the world map. I don't think it really gives anyone benefit to attack them anymore, but the AI is so frothing at the mouth to attack anything smaller than it that it will desperately go for it with everything it's got, and you have no control over where they land or when, technically, and you can't really scout it out ahead of time. So you just kind of have to... Hopefully this won't land outside a settlement with 3 enemy stacks surrounding it, because if so... guess I'm going to need a new caravan, and inevitably eventually it does. So I actually quite like the caravan mechanic, and I don't mind the little battles you fight, but what I would like is for that to be completely off the world map. And for those events to happen just there. They're just not on the world. So you can be ambushed, that's fine, and that can maybe relate to the... if you land in like a vampire region, you get ambushed by vampires, assuming they hate your guts, which is fine. I've got no problem with that. But rather than being on the world map where 3 armies are going to jump you, it's a, you know, size of a force roughly the same as your army so that you've got a chance to defeat it, which is fine. Because otherwise that mechanic is completely useless. The Great Bastion has the problem of being next to the Chaos Wastes, and I hate the Chaos Wastes because I know Fred said make the Chaos Wastes, like, give loads of attrition, but the problem is, and this is a Total War problem, that if you border the Chaos Wastes, you will just be endlessly attacked. And it's not even the... Because I mean, even in the lore, Kislev and the Empire only had to deal with, you know, generations apart great invasions of chaos. They didn't have to deal with Archaon like he was a Saturday morning cartoon villain turning up on a regular basis, which he does.
No, but they do have regular incursions.
Archaon turning up with a stack of regiments of renowned every other turn is a little bit grating.
All right, fair dinkum.
When you fought Bilious Thunderguff for the 3rd time in 5 turns, you do start to get... I remember playing as Gorst, and I ended up going north and taking all the mountains, and I had a little Strigoi vampire with a horde of zombies, and his job was basically just to sit there and deal with chaos armies trying to come south. And I swear, I fought a battle with him every turn. Because it was either Archaon, or it was one of his vassals, or it was Kolek, or it was someone else, and they were just constantly coming. So every turn I was fighting effectively the same battle in the same place with the same units, and that's not fun. And so I like the idea of the Bastion being the fact that it stops those chaos incursions. However, they do tend to just ignore it and go around, because the number of times I've been attacked by Village going all the way around the mountains, and then I mean, I get it. They look at the Bastion and think, that's quite tall. I won't do that. But then they really want to go for you, so they'll just go all the way around. And I think that's kind of a problem. Basically, Total War is a paint the map game because of the victory conditions. And they've made some areas of the map hard to paint for some reason. So I don't really know what to do with the Bastion apart from maybe just make the AI attack it more, or just don't attack you. Maybe just go and find something else to do. I don't know. Let him get a hobby or something. Pick up stamp collecting. Anything but just throw more armies at you. I don't know. So yeah, Cathay, just bad mechanics all round, really.
Okay, can I interject here with a thing about Bastion?
I think he's got more. You can tell. He's got something. He's just like holding it back.
I'm so angry at the moment with this game.
You can tell. Jeez.
No, the Bastion, I really like the Bastion. I think the Bastion should be there, but the problems you're describing isn't like a problem with...
it's not a problem with Cathay.
No, but like they should just soup up the Bastion, because there's no reason why it should be like it is right now. You shouldn't be attrition, for example, if somebody is sieging you from one side when you can just give in stuff there, and they should just give you better stuff in the Bastion as well. Basically, you should be able to like auto resolve any kind of stack that they're sending you. You have to manually resolve, like, you know, if they're sending 3 armies or something like that, and you have to fix that. But it's it's a Great Bastion. You shouldn't have to micromanage that all the time. Like, it should be strong as heck. And then on the side, there's a really tall mountain with aggressive ogres in it. Maybe those ogres should just be souped up in aggression towards people trespassing. And then basically that problem would be solved,
there is a problem with when Village attacked me via the mountains, he had gone past Grimgor, who they hated each other. They hated each other's guts. In fact, Village hated Grimgor more than he hated me, but neither of them declared war on each other. They both just decided to attack me, which is kind of a problem with player bias. Yeah. And if the AI is more inclined to declare war on each other, at least they might entertain each other.
Hence the attacked people who trespass, not just the player. If they would just be hyper aggressive against trespassing, that would basically maybe solve. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
spitball in here.
Wrong with Cathay. It's just all the mechanics are kind of They're just overall boring. Like you could interface, you could just like swap them with the Empire, and they'd be basically the same thing.
So when I first played Village, when he first released, I did the trick where you could just teleport straight through the wall and then attack it from the other side, and I loved it. And they patched that out. But it really drove home the fact for me that when the first time I played Miao Ying, I was like, oh, this is great. This is a Hadrian's Wall fantasy. You are the last Roman keeping out the barbarian tribes. And that's good for like 30 turns. Then you clear the other side of the wall. And then you just play a regular game. So I feel it's a bit like Wood Elves, right? Maybe you tie it to some sort of like special, 3 or 4 special things that will attack you. Give it so that's the objective of that campaign. Because she's really the only person that interacts with it anyway. So just make it her objective.
Yeah, I like that. And especially because every so often you get those Norskins spawn that attack the wall. But even after you've like cleansed the Chaos Wastes, they will still spawn to attack you.
No. Oh, that's
so I actually managed to befriend Zartan, the Chaos Dwarf on the other side, and I just kind of left him to deal with that. I just kept paying him off every so often. They would spawn, immediately Zartan would jump them and kill them, and so he kind of acted as my defense line. But it would have been nice had, they said, oh, if you take these settlements, then you've dealt with that problem.
Why would those continue to like randomly pop up? It's like a bad trigger system. That's oh gosh.
Yeah.
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 I'm not sure how to fix Cathay beyond that. Like, it's interesting what you're saying about the caravan system. I liked the caravan system initially, but I think that what you're talking about with it moving across the map goes to something you and I have talked about individually, which is, they want you to have more things to interact with on the map. That's why they're moving that caravan on there, so you feel like you have something else to do besides, like, sieging settlements. But because it's sort of randomly jumping around, you don't have the minute control necessary to feel like it's something that you get control over, right? And it's it's a good idea that the execution didn't quite come out like they were hoping for.
The really weird part is that Chaos Dwarfs caravans solve most of those problems as well, with just being more powerful.
I mean, I still think the Chaos Dwarfs have an issue, but I think their routes tend to go through territory where they're less likely to get attacked. Whether the
that as well. But even then, their caravans get super beefy.
So.
Yeah, but they also get like Cambrian War Sphinxes and Carabyses and like Arachnaroks and Shagoths and like, all manner of powerful monsters. Like if you're lucky, you get an Ogre Hunter in the Cathay one.
I've had Chaos Dwarf caravans just happen to hop into a terrible place and just get jumped. Like, technically I was going up the Chaos Waste, and for some reason, and I don't entirely know why, but Kostaltin happened to be there with 3 stacks. So immediately I got jumped by 3 stacks of Kostaltin in the middle of the Chaos Wastes for whatever reason. And I had no control of that, and that was my caravan gone.
Do you know what that reminds me of? There's one mechanic that I absolutely detested in Thrones of Britannia from back in the day, which was the expedition mechanic. Occasionally, with this one faction, you could send out an expedition, and you just selected one of the 2 options, and every time, you just had a chance that the whole thing would fail. So it would be something that would take like 25 turns to get through all the different question trees, and every time it just percentage to fail. And you would have invested thousands, and you have no control over it. And that's what that feels like with the caravans. You don't have any control over the outcome here. And you could have just wasted how long messing with it.
Man, I completely forgotten about the expedition system. I'm one of those dudes who will defend Thrones of Britannia so much.
They did take out that system because they realized that was crap.
Yeah. But I like had completely I scraped that away from my mind because it was so bad. I probably used it like once and it's like,
so
this isn't good.
Preview, I played Sudreyar, so I was the first person to play that, and I was like, whoa. So yeah, it was but
it's stuff that does make me wonder whether Creative Assembly actually test the game for how fun it is, or whether they just run it through like procedural scenarios.
I think sometimes sometimes it just goes far enough, and then it's fun enough.
I mean, if you've been, it's like editing your own videos. I mean, I make jokes in my videos, and by the time I'm done editing them, they're not funny to me anymore. I've listened to them 50 times. I can't tell. By the same token, if you have quality assurance testers or, QA or anything else, they're playing it through the first 50, 60 turns. Like it's difficult to get in a 200 turn campaign for Total War. You know, so a lot of this late game stuff you're talking about where it's broken, how many people got that far in? You know, or was it see if this mechanic works and then go on?
That's my concern. Is basically.
I mean, aren't the QA people like checking it on hard because it's like balanced for hard? So they're basically just playing on hard. So if you're playing on very hard or legendary or something like that, like it's not tested or like quality assured for that, basically.
Normal or normal hard. I mean, because that's where like something like 50% of this player base is already. So that makes sense. But yeah, as you said, trying to. I have a big gripe about trying to balance out of very hard and legendary, but that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, that's what I've heard as well. They just play on the one difficulty because that's where most people are going to play it.
Makes sense. Fred, over to you.
Yes, I have chosen the Dark Elves. And I will preface this with saying that Dark Elves is one of my favorite factions. I love Malekith. Malekith is like one of my favorite lore characters in any setting. And these are not like a complete rework because I think they're pretty strong still. A lot of people still have gripes about their slay mechanics and like the income from that. And they like the previous system. I thought that was wonky. I don't think this one is that much better. But being able to boost buildings so they're done immediately with the amount of slaves is great. It has like made them, you know, a powerhouse in the campaign. They get way easier. It's a little bit more interesting campaign as well. But so all I want is just essentially just a couple of small things. And that is for the slay mechanic to be more important. So for example, let's say you're going into battle. You get the little ogre kingdoms thing where it's like eat meats, but instead it's sacrifice slaves for winsome magic. So then you get better recharge rates, more winsome magic reserves, and you just like boost that. And maybe you're asking yourself, but Fred, how in the world are you going to get enough slaves for that? Well, I'm actually very happy that you asked. You see, arcs are not just like a naval flotilla. Now, I can go into like how I actually think that the Dark Elves are just worse High Elves, right? Like you get some bombardments from them. Otherwise, they're like, you can't really compare arcs to global recruitments because they don't really like, if you're going to fight stuff only by the coasts, that's like a little bit of the map and they're going to be useless for a lot of the map. But the arcs should be a caravan system. Because not everyone needs a caravan. So hold up. But black arcs in the lore are giant fortresses that raids for slaves and other things. You send them out on an ocean voyage. They go to like the coast of Bretonia. You go to the coast of Norska, Chaos Waste, Lustria, any place really. And they just bring back slaves. They bring back some monster. So here's the deal as well. All the arcs are giant floating cities and like fortresses, right? So in the cellars, they have massive amounts of monsters like sea serpents, giant crabs, you name it. In that darkness, they have any manner of monster. Like it fits so perfectly as to like push in monsters, have like just go and grab slaves with them. And then they come back and they get other stuff. Obviously, you can still have like arcs on the map as well if you really like them. I mean, they're okay. They're not bad or anything like that. It's just like a very weird thing, really, when you really get down to it. But like having them as a caravan, get monsters in them, collect slaves and collect like loot and stuff like that. That's literally what they do in the lore. That's what they like. The entire reason for them, like the raiding culture of the Dark Elves, is what the entire society is built on.
I have a question. This is a lore question.
Yes.
Are there examples you can think of a dark arc being taken in the lore, like being overcome, being conquered?
Yeah, Archeon steals one.
One example.
And becomes a pirate king for like 5 years.
Archeon. Okay, so that's fine. That's good enough. That's, I think, when they're basically that impregnable, where they're supposed to be this overwhelming force that rolls through your area. No, that makes perfect sense to do what you're talking about then. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes, it's always going to
but like, it's not like he took, yeah, it's not like he just sailed up to it and took it over, because that's very hard. Gotrek Garrison once got captured by us and managed to sink it, but that's Gotrek Garrison, right? The thing that's like one versus hell. Okay,
it's just dropping the Doomslayer in there, right? Unless like let the rock music play.
Yeah, basically. Because if you didn't know, Gotrek gets spun into hell, and then after a couple of thousand years, there is like opens a portal for him. He just tries to make him leave, like it's like a feral badger in your house. They just like try to like scoot him out, basically, because they can't stop him anymore. They just like have thrown everything in the kitchen sink for thousands of years.
There is a problem with your idea. I want to make sure I point it out right now. Monsters hates caravans.
Not this one, because this is fun. You get monsters and get a better use for all those things, right? You can feed your magic habits.
I think the fantasy
economy
of the Dark Elves, right, is having the Black Arcs like sail out and effectively do what you're saying, right? It's basically sack coastal towns. That's what they're there for, right? They raid coastal provinces. The problem is, if you send a Black Arc out by itself, it's going to get the shit kicked out of it. Because...
Okay, so here's my counter argument.
I like the idea of the caravan.
Or do you want
because the problem is that, and I think this is another total war problem, is that if you have this idea of, I'm going to sail over to Bretonia, you will be up to your armpits in High Elves in Nagarond before you can go, oh God, where did they all come from? Because... you know, they'll all declare war on you, and then there'll be like 5 stacks from each of the High Elf factions just landing in Nagarond, attacking you. And so you never get the chance to send your Black Arc out. There is this idea that the Black Arc should be sort of an autonomous thing, but there's no point sending it out by itself because it will just die.
Okay, I hear your concern, and I have 100% answers for this as well. So you don't have to worry about this. What is a Black Arc?
It's effectively a floating city floating on a giant sea monster
that they have painted with Vanta Black.
Yeah.
Well,
with spikes on it.
Yeah, or even a fortress. You can even call it.
Is it really floating on a giant sea monster? By the way, I want to pause.
Originally, it's
I don't
either
think
magic or a giant sea monster. I believe.
Dude, like a giant like whale with like
I think it's
back.
like
I love that.
Kraken tentacles. Dark Elves.
Oh, that's so cool. It's like the Great Atuin. He's got like a disc roll with a twirl in the back. I love that. It's totally not lore anymore. I'm sure it's too cool. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's just a giant fortress, basically, that's held up by magic nowadays.
Is that when was it Marathi went to twiddle with the Great Vortex and got punted out? That ruined the coastline.
Marathi.
Effectively, the Black Arcs are all the High Elf or Elf cities at those point that kind of were shielded and got like punted out into sea, and then they sailed off. And the Dark Elf cities are actually those that they beached in the land. There are actually cities that came from Ulthuan.
Oh, they actually are built on giant monsters. It was me who was mistaken there. Yeah, but anyway,
I love that.
They're a little bit more of a giant city, a fortress, really, or that work as a city, right? So here's the thing: you make the battle map into a fortress with like a giant gangplank or a gangway or something like this. Because why would you let them step up anywhere, right? Like, you can literally choose where to be. Why would you go outside of the walls to fight stuff? It's a fortress. You have a fortress sail around, like a little like Bastion or one of the Empire fortresses just sail around.
One of those maps already? I think
there was. It's a quest battle map.
No, I think if you are...
Yeah.
I think if you are laying siege to a city with a Black Arc and they sally out, you get that specific map, but only in that instance.
Oh, yeah, I don't use them enough for that, but that's cool. But yeah, like, why don't you just use that, like with an actual like bridge battle and everything, and then you can defend this, right? Because it's a fortress. It's not a caravan or anything like that. It's not like a big boat. It's a freaking fortress.
I do like the idea of it being more caravan-y, because the idea of being like, I'm going to send out this Black Arc, particularly if you could do something like, I'm trying to think, it's like the Troy mythos stuff, where you kind of like stack it with supplies. So you can go, you know what, I'm going to attach, I don't know, like a witch elf cult to this. Send that out. That will have certain bonuses or something. And then if you fight a battle, there's witch elves there as well. So you can kind of like beef it up that way.
I think that Mythos example is a great idea. Like, it's the same concept of like, hey, here's the target we're going to pick, and then you can upgrade along the way to help with the success. So it's not... I really like that idea because it gives you like a good battle at the end or something interesting as well.
I think
But the coastal raids and stuff like that aren't really represented in the game at all. And if you guys ever read like the Malus Darkblade books, like it's a huge part of Dark Elf lore. Like when somebody comes of age, they have to go out and do a raid, and how well that raid like fares will actually put them into their stature in society later on. So it's like a strict meritocracy as well, thanks to that. So obviously they should have.
I think that goes
something
back to the
like
larger problem we talk about with Norska as well. It's like it's really difficult to visualize the C rating in this game, and I wonder if it's because there's not enough minor settlements along the water that are not heavily defended that you can just have a lord and 3 guys run up and hit and keep going. You know, is it a way of like having to visualize that? You know, could you just have a small army that does that aside from your big army to, you know, replicate that?
There are weirdly few coastals.
Oh, I just thought about this as well. I just thought about this because my entire document is literally like DE, sacrifice slaves, ARC, and then like something else.
Surprise.
But I just thought about this as well. Imagine now, since it is a floating fortress, right? You won't be like ambush and stuff like that much, but instead you get battles to take stuff, right? Like you just land at a village and you have to, like, you know, actually murder them to take slaves and stuff like that. So it's, you know, like the reverse type of caravan battles you get because you have to go and be the aggressor instead.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's
a little
interesting
bit,
how a lot of the ideas we all kind of go, oh yeah, that sounds good, are ideas where it lets the player travel the map. Whereas I think most of the time, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I do often feel like I have very little agency in Total War Warhammer, where I'm always just thinking, okay, my neighbors declared war on me, I guess I'm going to invade them.
Yeah, I mean, every single like Malekith campaign will basically be picks up your corner, go to the little corner, picks up Grumbrindle, sail to Ulthuan,
don't forget
take over all of Ulthuan, decide, and then decide. That's kind of I don't. That's fine. I got everything that I can.
Yeah.
Because then you're kind of bored with this. That leads me on to the next points. Segue. Because you kind of need like a new end game unit for it. Like you, I played so much Dark Elves that you kind of get bored with stuff, and they don't have anything really fun late game. They have like a dragon that is one of the like it's worse than a star dragon, and like it's fine, but like maybe you can have your something else. Because I was playing a mod called Expanded Slaneshi roster for Marathi, and it basically just gives Marathi a building where she can get all of the Slaneshi units, and I didn't really use them, but having a couple of Keeper of Secrets was so cool though. It was so much fun. And in SFO they also get like these Manticore Knights as well, which is basically Dread Knights but on Manticores. And it's just, you know, something cool. You don't need to have like an entire stack of them or anything like that. Like if you literally had from the arc raids, for examples, you could just have like a Regiment Renown from something. Like if you travel to a raid and you also stop by the waste, you just get like a Keeper Secret Regiment Renown. Some way, just bind that. One of the sorceresses in the arc managed to bind that. You also got like a mammoth from the raid, or you got like a enslaved Grail Knights or something.
Here's a question. I know that they've tried to make some of the factions' economies a little bit more varied. So they've made it a bit like Bretonia, where you don't just build the one money building. There's like a little money building, but then a building that increases the money you get from the money building. So you really need to build both of them. But because I was playing High Elves, and again, they've kind of you've got your artisan, but you've also got your entertainment building, And then there's a building that increases the money you get from the entertainment building, and plus you get more money if there's public order. So you need the entertainment building, but that doesn't really give you much money. So then you need the extra money building to make the entertainment money building give you the money that you need to then give you the public order you need to get the artisan money.
I mean, high ups are kind of cranked in that way because their control building also makes trinkets, and trinkets are worth basically as much as diamonds. So whenever it's like dwarves, right? They make beer everywhere, and that's also worth quite a lot. And being a high order faction, you can trade, you can export 100% of everything all the time. So you just get so much money from that anyway.
I mean, there's other factions as well where you know they kind of have like a little bit more of a convoluted economy. But because you kind of always have to build the growth building because they slow growth down to stop everyone from having tier 5 buildings by turn 50, and the money building because otherwise you can't afford any units, I don't tend to actually build any recruitment buildings until I've got like a tier 3, sometimes a tier 4 city, which can take 40, 50 turns. So until then, you're just recruiting literally your bog standard units. Like you've got, you know, dark shards and sad swords, whatever the hell they're called. You've got Lothar and Seaguard. You've got spearmen and crossbows if you're the Empire. You've only got like that base, and occasionally you'll have something, you know, maybe a unit you started off with, a special, like a tier 4 unit or something. But what that means is that until you get quite far into the campaign, you're literally making do. And it's not until I always find like my legendary lord's army does tend to just end up with those bog standard units because he's always the tip of the spear. They're always like miles away from the front line. I don't want to take 5 turns to recruit stuff through global recruitment because I don't have the time or a safe space for them to do that. So you just kind of end up making do with like, and it is kind of like taking away that excitement of having those units because you never really get to use them. Unless you're Bretonia, in which case you just recruit Rail Knights and stacks of them.
I think that could interact back with the Black Arc mechanic in a way, because you're talking about, you know, lack of resources, right? Lack of availability. It feels like that could be where a Black Arc could step back in again. You know, hey, you've got a Black Arc mission to reinforce these guys. You know, use it in some sort of capacity right there to make it feel like you're pushing this stuff.
Yeah, but especially if it gives you a unit, like it gives you Keeper of Secrets. Suddenly that's like, oh, cool. Now I can put that in my army, assuming you can afford it, of course. You kind of have to do the thing of, do I build the building that's going to let me recruit cool stuff, or do I build the building that's going to actually let me pay to recruit them? So
I think paying to outfit an expedition on a Black Arc instead is like a third option there that could get you some really cool stuff if it succeeds. Gives you that nice kind of third option there.
Admittedly, the economy in Immortal Empires is a lot better than it was in Realm of Chaos, where it was absolute garbage.
Better. But yeah, that's my pitch for the Dark Elves. Then you can always, like, you know, rework heroes and stuff like that, because Malus Darkblade's entire thing is you know, travel the world to get really cool items. He doesn't do that. Dude needs like kind of rework anyway, because he's just weird right now. Like, I did a campaign where I only used Malus. Like, he was a one-man army from turn 1. But like, he took over the first city. He did everything by himself, the entire campaign. And the only thing that could stop him was like turn 40 or 50 or something, when I'd taken over all the north. And then I landed on Ulton, and then you have like 4 armies on that against you, and it was Tyrion with the Sword of Cain. He managed to stop me, but the rest, well, he kind of slaughtered everything else before that.
To give you guys fair warning, you've got about 7 minutes till my wife gets home. And she's gonna barge through that door, and there's gonna be chaos here. So
in that case,
I
Cody,
wrap
go
it up pretty quick.
What's your second one?
So I came in late to this, and I didn't have a second one. So
it's okay if you don't.
I'll do vampire counts. Oh, it's already taken. So I'm gonna tell you the ones I chose not to do. Empire, because we assume that's about to get a rework in the next DLC, alongside Nurgle, which will also get a rework.
I fucking hope they get a rework.
Hopefully we get actual reworks. Like, I think Empire.
And maybe dwarfs.
I think, you know, again, dwarfs work pretty well. I think Empire works pretty well. It just needs a little bit of tweaking. Like, I think getting more unique units per little areas would be really cool. You know, getting some moot hot pots, you know, getting some dwarfs, you know, getting something that you want to have good relations with these people would be really cool. So the thing I really want to talk about, the rework that I feel really needs to happen more than anything else, is I want to change sieges again. I hate the new siege system, and I just despise it. Everything about it from the first moment I played it, I have hated, and I have never gotten happier about it. I skip every siege battle when I play the game. I have not done that since Medieval 1, back with the 2D guys, because I just couldn't win because it was a huge pain in the butt. But I skip every siege battle now. What people wanted was the GCCM mod, which is just more maps with more variety. Give us something different there. And instead, we got less maps with less variety. And nobody has been happy about this at any point. Like, I would be fine with a wholesale reversion back to the Warhammer 2 system. This stupid gamey system has not... I hate it. It's like I'm not playing point whack-a-mole the whole time. It doesn't work for me. I think Troy, Pharaoh both have great sieges. Three Kingdoms, great sieges. Again, it's an objective. It's a small area. There's ways of making this work that don't feel like a game. When I say a game, I mean like it's so obvious you're playing a game versus a war simulator.
Yeah. Like Thrones Britannia has like some of the best siege maps in the entirety of the series ever. Like the just choke points. There's one map in Thrones Britannia that like made it so that I just felt like this is the best siege battle I've ever done. It was like 3,000 dudes or 4,000 versus my 700 dudes in the garrison, and they landed in on a beach, and then it's like a valley in the mountains basically, and you can stand on top as well of the entire mountain.
Yeah, I believe so.
Is that what it's called?
Stone gray walls, and they're having to wear between them. Yeah, Dumbarton Rock.
Yeah, and then you can shoot down there, and they can't shoot up that high, and it's just like you could just hold there like the thermopile pass basically in 300, and it's just like it's just so cool. And it's not gamified, because gamified, like I 100% agree with you. Like, it's way too gamified. Nothing can just have one choke point or anything like that. Like, it's like they don't understand what a siege is supposed to be. Like, oh, we're gonna make this really like this is where we're gonna defend. It's basically Norska in Warhammer 2, right? It's like we're gonna defend here in the middle of the frozen lake where we are outnumbered.
I think
it's like,
I think it goes to a larger problem in the mindset of making Game 3, which is there was that big decision. We want to go for the multiplayer scene. We want those fair, balanced multiplayer maps, which always need 3 lanes, so there's options, and it's like that's not what people are playing. That people are
percent of people that play multiplayer is minuscule. It's
right.
It's pisses me off to no end how all the units are balanced for multiplayer as well.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the endless list for multiplayer balance stuff, and I get it, but there's no money going into a multiplayer scene. There's no tournament scene attached to it. There's put any of that effort anywhere else towards this, and I think you could do so much so quickly. Oh, and you were talking before we actually started here about some of the stuff from the trailer of Warhammer 1 for sieges that still aren't on it, please.
Previews. In like I was reading this in like PC Gamer magazine, like for Warhammer 1. And they mentioned like artillery on walls, and how giants were supposed to like be able to punch down walls, and that's in like some form now. Like some stuff can do that, can punch down walls, but spiders were supposed to just be able to like climb the walls easily, just walk on them. But they never put that in, and I think that's because the AI can't handle it in the end.
I mean, it's the same as doing a ladder system. I don't. If the AI can detect a ladder, they can detect a spider. And if not, you need to code it differently. Like that's just a simple, here's a collider on the wall, something entered it, it should now register it. That's the
goddamn ass ladders. They're so weird. They're so bad. And it's not just that it's weird, it's also that if you like have one dude climb, and then you're gonna get 20 dudes in through the door that they opened, like half of them are gonna try to just bunch up on the ladder, and then like just one unit will like be on the ladder. Then you can't get them to go. And then you can't get them to go from there, so you just like try to avoid putting down the ladder.
The sieges for Total War Warhammer are the fact that you have those arse ladders, and it's nigh on impossible to defend a wall.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just too gamified.
They're just not fun to play attack or defense.
I got so disappointed because I was like about a year ago. I was like, man, we're stuck with the system. This is the penultimate game. There's not another fantasy game after this, and we're stuck with this system forever.
It's not GCCM, but custom maps are getting
if you notice,
are coming back.
They strip it back to like a Warhammer 2 style. They try to remove as much of that stuff as possible, because that's what people want to play.
I mean, the little zones and stuff like that are completely nonsensical. Like, you just need one. It's just crazy that you have to have like the gamified version, and then there's also like it's so gamified as well, because I was playing Three Kingdoms today, and it's like you go in there, either you burn down the barricade or it's gonna be there. But in Warhammer, it's really, I'm standing here and they're like, all right, boys, disassemble. And all the towers just like fall down, the barricades just like fall, like it's crumble, and it's just
We've lost
weird.
the control point. Dismantle the towers. The city is lost.
I really hate the fact there's only one Skaven map. But every city, if the Skaven take it, will be that map, which means if you fight a massive Skaven empire, you're effectively going to be fighting the same map again.
Vampires are the same way, except it just adds a wall.
But at least if the vampires take a dwarf city, it's a dwarf map, whereas every single city the Skaven take will always be a Skaven map.
The same Skaven map.
And it's always going to be the same one. It drives me mad.
It's so weird. Like, you have to stand on the walls for the towers to shoot, because they have like a game controller there, and somebody has to man it. Standing there like, pew, 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 pew. Like, did you see this?
Since we're talking about maps, I have to film all the time for Noob's Guides, right? And I really hate that every single map that I encounter, nearly without fail, either has a hill in the middle or a massive ridge, so that you don't have line of sight across the entire map, which is so difficult to film with, because it's like, here's a hill every single time. They're all designed the same way, with like various little bits and bobs added on.
It's so weird with the camera as well, because when you like go under bridges and stuff like that, the camera will just like shoot up over it instead, so you can never like get these going through the tunnel kind of like shots and stuff. No, I actually don't. Maybe I should do this
after this is over, then, because there's a way to get around that.
Nice, thanks.
I think Cody's about to descend into children chaos, so best wrap this up.
I think my timer just went off over here. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and thanks.
No, thanks for coming on. It's been great.
Thank you for joining us today.
Well, it's nice
it was
to have
a pleasure.
the only intelligible accent on the program, so.
That's fair.
We're
not going to do the usual 40-minute wrap-up where we talk about what we've playing, because we've been going for like 2 hours and 20 minutes. And
Helldivers too.
Yeah, pretty much.
So fun.
Yeah, same.
So good.
It's fabulous. All right. That's it.
Pretty
Bye.
good.
Boom.
See ya.
Bye-bye.